if you're listening just to respond, you're not listening. Okay.
Yeah.
You have to really just own what your baggage you own, but stand firm in the fact that I think going forward, this is just not something that's
It's
working
probably
for
best
us.
for both of you.
Thanks for watching Hot Flashes and Cool Topics podcast. Be sure to subscribe and ring that bell to catch all of our conversations. Now, on to the show.
Hello. Welcome back to Hot Flashes and Cool Topics video podcast today. Yay. All right, I'm Bridgett.
I'm Colleen.
And today we are going to talk about something that a lot of people commented and said they'd like to talk about.
We did a little survey of what women in our demographic wanted to talk about, and we actually did it in our newsletter. So if you'd like to join our newsletter, you can go in the comments below. It will have the link for the newsletter to sign up. But we asked like 4 different questions, and by far, Bridgett, what was the winner?
It was how to break up with a friend. And that is
Drum roll.
hard. That is so hard.
It's
I
really
think
true. Have you had to do that?
Yeah. And I'm awful at it. I'm terrible at it.
Is anybody good at that? It's such
No.
And I think, like, before we actually talk about ways that we've found the healthiest way to break up, I think it's important to understand we're 57, and what we would put up with in friendships now isn't what we're willing to put up with. Like
what we did in the past. Yeah.
What we put up with before, we're really not willing to put up with right now.
Right.
And, that's different for everybody. Your threshold is different. But someone once told me when I was in my 20s, and I've stood by this, people come into your life for a reason, a season, or a lifetime. And it is okay that it doesn't last forever. That a friendship, sometimes it's organic, sometimes it's location, or sometimes it just has to be done. It has to be done. But, like when your kids are little and you're friends with all the mommy and me groups, and then naturally kids go to different schools and they get older. It's like a natural thing.
Right.
But as we get older, and we've spoken, I think a great example is Dan Buettner.
Yeah.
The Blue Zones. They talk about the power 9 of
Centurions? Well, people over 100.
Centurions.
People over the age of 100. Yeah.
And one of the power 9s is that you have a close circle of positive friends. So maybe 5 people, but things like obesity and smoking and eating like crap, that's contagious, he feels. So I think as we get older, we're more we don't need quantity, we need quality.
Right. Yes. And there's so many factors that play into this whole friendship thing. And we knew we were going to be discussing this, and last night the talented Mr. Ripley comes on TV. And I'm watching and I'm like, sometimes you've got someone with mental health issues that that was the extreme. If you've seen that movie with Matt Damon and Jude Law and Gwyneth Paltrow, it's a very good movie. But sometimes people, you get a little bit nervous about hurting someone's feelings. That is my thing. I don't want to hurt someone's feelings.
Right.
But it does get to a point where it is toxic. It's toxic to you. Or just, it is. Or it's interfering with your home life or your life with your partner, then that's a problem. Or it's putting you into situations that you would not be in. Because I had a college friend that would shoplift all the time.
Oh, that's
I shoplift all the time, steal. And I
did
not
want
to.
You in very I
mean,
possibly.
Like what is it? Guilty by association. I mean, that is not who I am all about. And that really made me nervous. Like it was kind of a situation.
So how did you break up with her?
Moved places. So that person lived near me in a dorm and actually was my roommate for a little bit. And they left, so just never spoke to.
So that was like a clean break.
That was a clean break, and a lot of mine have been clean breaks. There are times when something happens that it is just like, no, I cannot. Or where they've insulted something or something in my belief system that is so strong that I'm just like, I don't want to talk to this person anymore. And usually that situation was not super close friendship. Those are a little bit easier, but when it's, when somebody you feel really badly for because of their situation in life, but what they are doing is just putting you, in just, I don't know.
And stress that your friendship shouldn't cause that kind of stress.
Right.
That's not a healthy relationship. And if you can't set a boundary that you feel comfortable with, it is okay. If you take away nothing else from this show, it is okay to break up with friends. You are not, an indentured servant. It is okay to put yourself first and say, I am not comfortable in this friendship anymore. And just by way of example, I had a friend, Bridgett knows who I'm talking about, and did everything with them when I first moved to Tennessee, and made excuses for some behavior that I was uncomfortable with because they were my friend. And to be perfectly honest, it wasn't until the elections came about, and of course that's relatable to everybody, that it became kind of uncomfortable to the point where I was avoiding having to see this person. And so what I did was, for my own mental health, I snoozed Facebook for 30 days towards election time. And when the person found out, they blocked me. And they haven't spoken to me since, which is a blessing in disguise, I guess, because not every relationship, I enjoyed it thoroughly.
They blocked me too, but I didn't snooze ever. Guilty by association.
There you go. But it was affecting my mental health.
Yes.
It was affecting my stress. It was bad enough. Whatever side of this political spectrum you're on, that's not the issue. But when the person that you're supposed to gain support and understanding from is causing you to be uncomfortable, and you're stressed at the very thought of being alone with them, and that's another big thing. Like, if you are stressed about being alone with this person, there's a way to make it where if you don't want to end the friendship, you can only see them when you're in groups of people, which can
and sometimes you can't avoid that. You can't avoid that. You can't tell someone else they can't be friends with someone. No, we're not doing that. We're adults now. You don't do that. But there are situations where you are going to have to see that person. And if you can remain cordial, the best you can avoid, it is easier said than done, but the best you can do to avoid, that person, that's what you can do. And I mean, I think you and I both have some notes that we did some research on, right?
There are articles out there that talk about breaking up with friends. I think by the age of 50-something, you've done it at least once or 100 times. And there are different ways you can do it. They call a slow, kind of a slow burn friendship, where it just peters out naturally, I think is the least stressful. And
probably least harmful. Right. Especially if someone's got a mental health issue. Especially that. And that one, you really want that person to get help, but sometimes the situations are so that you don't have the bandwidth to help them. You just don't even have it.
We all have that friend that is a friend to you when they need something. I call it shelf friends. They put you on a shelf.
Okay. Yeah.
And when they need you, well, how is that helping you? How is that supporting you? How is that being positive energy in your life? And sometimes those are easier to, kind of separate from, because they're only contacting you when they need something. They
need you, right. And you can become unavailable.
A good point. So that's one way to do it, where you just kind of separate naturally. It's the probably least challenging, but there are times where you're never break up by text. You can't do that in a relationship of any kind. You shouldn't
do that.
No.
You shouldn't do that.
Right?
I mean, you shouldn't. All the notes, that I found, I looked up on Reddit too, because
Reddit is the best place.
It is, because you just hear different things. But they do say face-to-face if possible. I mean, that's a lot.
If there's a mental health issue.
If there's a mental health, or if you feel in danger, then no, you get yourself to safety. That's just how that, and that's rare, except for then I watch Talented Mr. Ripley, and I'm like, but you do hear about that happening, and you're just like, okay, this is not safe, and trying to be empathetic and trying to not make it their problem.
Right. It's got to be under I.
It's got to be under I.
Say,
right.
I am not feeling comfortable. I feel like things have changed. Don't put it on the other person, because then they get defensive and nobody's listening to each other. And at this point, we would love to hear if you have a story about a breakup or things that worked for you. Please leave it in the comments below. Or if you're listening to this episode, please email us at hotflashescooltopics@gmail.com, because I think community and conversation helps so many other
They do.
people.
It does. And yeah, and if you're like the one of the breakup, like, when like Colleen said, shelf friends,
Yeah.
when they only call you when they need you, or they don't answer your text, or they don't participate, you keep trying to include them, then there comes a point where you're just like, I'm not going to ask them anymore.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
Or the opposite, they need you all the time. I had a friend when my kids were little who would call me every day before school started. And I was like, I'm getting my kids ready for
that's
school.
A nightmare.
Right? I had to just stop answering. The only way I could handle it was I stopped answering the phone.
Yeah.
And then that person got the hint. But so there's two extremes with that. Either they only need you sometimes or they need you all the time.
That's,
Either way, that's draining on your mental health. And as we get older, positivity is so important in our health and in our longevity. It doesn't matter if you have 10 friends. You can have, and I heard somebody the other day talking about 40% of people do not have a best friend. And I always found that word odd because, I've used it, everyone has, but people end up saying, oh, this is my best friend, and this is my best friend. And the word best gets diluted in great friends. But they said that 40% of people do not have a best friend. And if that's the case, you shouldn't feel as isolated because you can get what you need, pieces of other people.
Right. I always
say one person in.
Yeah. It's funny. One of the people I can consider I always say one of my best friends.
Right. That's
one of my best friends. She's so funny. She's like, this is my best friend from here, and this is my best friend from there.
Right, and that isn't really your best.
And that's okay. They know them from different places, but I always say one of my best friends. Because I'm like, I don't have I guess I have a best husband because I only have one. A best son and a best daughter because I only have one of each. But I don't have a best sister. I don't have a best.
Oh, your sisters would not be happy.
Oh, no.
There's 10.
A best cousin, a best this, so.
And it kind of makes other people feel bad when you say.
Yeah.
If you're sitting in a room with 5 other girlfriends and like, this is my best friend. And they're like, what happened to me?
Yeah.
So sometimes you can get what you need in pieces from other people. And that's okay too. I don't think that we need to have a huge group of friends as we get older. Life experience has taught us, again, reason, season, lifetime.
Right. Yeah.
And that's okay.
Yeah. I think I read in one of the books, it might have been Georgia and Karen in My Favorite Murder book. What a great book.
We pull from
all places. But that if you have if you could count on your finger five close friends, hand, this is a hand. These are fingers. So if you can count on your one hand, 5 people that you could turn to in a situation, then you're doing really well. You really are. And even if it's only 2 or 3, that's great
as
too.
As long as you're feeling supported and happy, the number is really relevant. Really, what does it matter if you have one really, really good friend who you feel so supported and you can call in an emergency and you just feel like that person is your person. Right. And
lots of trust, lots of trust there. And I've read, when I was reading Reddit yesterday about different situations where somebody confided in a very close friend, and that friend told their mother, and their mother told the whole daggone small town everything. And that's when your trust is broken, that's really
right. And that's another reason. So let's go over a couple reasons where women feel, because they say kind of make a list of why you feel this relationship's not working, and if you stop telling them things because you're afraid they're going to share it, so you don't distrust, or that you feel you're going to be judged. At this stage of life, I don't want anybody. I don't care what you think of me.
And I don't have the right to really judge if you're not hurting somebody. Like if you're not abusing someone, I don't have the right to judge you.
Right. And I think that's what makes you a good friend, because it's true. I never feel unsupported.
No, who am I to say what's going on in somebody else's life? I don't know what. My daughter always says, she told me this, you don't know their life, because I used to be kind of snarky about things. When I was, I might say something and she's like, you don't know their life. And I'm like, oh my gosh, you're right. I don't know their life. I don't know what's going on.
If they're gossiping about other people to you, they're gossiping about you
They're
to
gonna
other
tell.
people.
Yeah,
Okay?
yeah.
Again, that's if they really like to share too much information that you're saying, I don't know if that person would have wanted you to tell me that. Then
Yeah,
more than likely they're
yeah.
telling that person something.
Right.
And that's okay. So, like Bridgett said, slow closure is one way of doing it where you just kind of not spend as much time with them, only in group situations. But if you're going to do one-on-one, and if you feel comfortable sitting down at a coffee shop or a home or outside, wherever you feel comfortable doing, make sure, number one, that the terms you use are I, not that you did this to me. But you say, I feel like, our friendship maybe start off, number one, with good things. So like, I feel like we've had so much fun in this relationship. I feel like all of these good things are memories. If you took a trip, if you had a great time at a show, start with positive things, but then be honest and say, I just feel like we've kind of grown apart. We've kind of gone our separate ways, and that's okay because we have great memories to share. And then listen to what they have to say. Like, don't immediately want to defend. They're allowed to share their feelings as well.
It is a communication, so you have to be prepared for that. You have to be prepared for that. And maybe there's something that will come up that you didn't realize. Oh my gosh,
exactly.
Did I do this? And I'm sorry I did that, or that's not the way I wanted it to come out, but I'm sorry, that happened.
And you kind of have to stand your ground too, because there will be guilt involved, natural guilt. You don't have to force more guilt on than necessary. So if they're like, well, what if we tried this? Or what if we tried that? If you feel like that's something you want to do, fine, but don't be talked into it because you're guilt. People pleasers, both of us.
Oh yeah.
Right?
And if you feel your shoulders tensing up, or if you feel like this, they say that the hair on the back of your neck stands up, you're getting a sign. I've really, have really started to really trust my gut. If I'm in a situation, that situation where your body is tensing up or you're not feeling good about something, then you just, it's time to go on.
It's okay. It is okay to break up with a friend. It doesn't make you a bad person. And if you do break up with them, understand that may cause a ripple effect with other friendships. Because like Bridgett said, you might still have to see the person. You may still be in groups where everyone else is friends. Now, hopefully that other person is mature enough to not speak poorly of you in front of other people. All you can do is make sure you don't speak ill of them.
Right. And I have it, like another hint was like to give the mutual friends a heads up. That's, I don't know, that's optional too, because you have to be careful there.
What if one of them tells that person?
Right. So you've got to, use your judgment there and see who you can trust in that aspect too, because you never know. You never know. They may go tell that person.
Could not see it coming, or they could actually agree with you. Wouldn't it be nice if you sat down and said, I have loved our time together, but I feel like we're just going in different directions, and I will always carry fond memories. But I don't know that this is the healthiest relationship for us to be in. And what if they turned around and said, I've been dying to tell you that?
Yeah, they could. It's hard to say.
Wouldn't that be nice?
Yeah.
You could get the complete opposite. How dare you?
Yeah.
You haven't been a good friend to me. And you have to, try to sit there and listen, but don't absorb things that you don't feel are reality.
Yeah.
Like if they tell you that you're not a good person, well, that's not true. And the guilt in you is going to be like, well, of course I'm not a good person. I'm breaking up with this person.
You're going to feel, but we've all been through situations where somebody is saying something to you and you're just thinking, no, that's wrong. But you're like, okay, I got to get out of here. I got to get out of this situation. So you're just kind of like nodding your head or,
And we're at an age now where we're less vulnerable to the guilt because I think that we know ourselves, and I think we're more selective. Some of those friendships are ones that you've carried for a long time.
Yeah, that one's really hard. Yeah, that one's really hard. And like we're saying, reducing contact, gradual distances.
Right,
that way,
That's and it's well, hello. What if they're a family member?
Oh, God.
That's removing yourself from contact as much as you can, I think, is helpful in the beginning. Setting healthy boundaries. You can't always never see them again.
Right, right.
You're going to see them at Thanksgiving. You're going to see them at birthday parties. you have to set healthy boundaries at that point. You have to be able to say, I am worth more than what they're doing. Because a lot of times family members can be very challenging.
Oh my gosh. I mean, it is. And it's very hard.
Right. So
Yeah.
you may set a boundary that I'm only going to see them
These
at
times.
birthday parties.
Yeah.
And you can say, this is not a place where I think we should discuss our friendship.
Yeah.
This is not an appropriate, if it's your child's birthday party, this is not, or a grandchild, this is not an appropriate place to have this conversation. Well, when are we going to have the conversation? Get in touch with me.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's, that's another thing it brings up. Sometimes you never know what this other person is how they're going to behave. And if they are insulting you all the time or putting you down or, I don't know, poking fun at you, there's fun. There's fun and ribbing and fun. And then there's mean. Like there's funny, fun things. And I get it when somebody is being funny. But then there's sometimes
it's funny, ha-ha,
there's mean.
It's
yeah, it's mean. And especially when they try to do it in front of other people to get a reaction from other people. If it's one-on-one, then it's just like, okay, you're just being funny. But if it's just like trying to get this reaction from other people, that's just being mean. And you need to take care of yourself. And if it's in a group, that happens, because it happens.
It absolutely happens.
Yeah.
And I don't think, you tell me if I'm wrong, but I don't think there's anything wrong with going to a different friend in the group and saying, listen, am I being oversensitive here, or was that crossing a line?
Right. That's a really good point. I think that,
you at least, and you don't have to go to the other person and say, listen, Becky
said that you crossed a line.
But just for your own
like
understanding.
Because I've been like, did I read into that wrong? Did I, and usually I find out, okay, no, that was rude. Sometimes somebody will point out, hey, that was really rude, what they said.
Right. They'll come to you and say, are you okay? Which makes it a good friend.
Yes. Yeah. They don't do that. Like I had that happen in high school. Somebody made fun of my car, and I know who you are, and I've got a better car than you now. But anyway, they said that, and I remember 2 friends came to me afterwards and said, that was really mean.
Yeah. And as we get older, we just don't need that.
Right.
You don't need. You become much more selective in your friends because you have enough life experience to see the BS coming a mile away. You know what I mean?
Like, absolutely.
You may need glasses or contacts, but you see people more clearly as you get older.
Yeah, you sure do. Yeah.
So that's helpful when you don't even want to get into a relationship, when that person's like, oh, let's go here, let's go there. You don't have to. Right. You're not obligated to like everyone.
Right.
You're not obligated to be friends with everyone. Now, you can't be rude. Well, you can, but that just makes you a jerk. But you can set healthy boundaries. So even if you sit down and say, what am I looking for in my friendships? And kind of make a list and say, are my friends supportive? Because like I said with Dan Buettner, obesity, smoking, negativity, it's contagious. So if you're hanging out with people who are unhappy in life and don't want to get out of it, they're not unhappy situations, because everyone goes through unhappy situations, but wants to sit in the muck and become a victim all the time.
Right.
I just don't. For me personally, I don't have time for that. When you're constantly a victim of everything in your life, that should tell you that something is. Yeah. You're looking at the world with the wrong lens.
Right. And you're hanging out at places you don't want to be, just like you're saying. Yes. That's unhealthy. Maybe you're going to bars every night, and maybe you like going to bars, but if you're going every night and you're drinking and you're waking up, hungover every day and things like that, those are situations you're thinking, maybe I shouldn't be in this situation. Maybe this is just a friendship. Yeah.
Don't ever ghost. Don't ever.
Yeah, I know it. I'm really bad about that.
Are you bad about ghosting?
Friendships. Yeah.
How do you ghost?
I just quit communicating.
Okay.
Yeah. Or I just quit. I don't do that all the time, but I can think of.
So she doesn't respond to me after this.
But there was probably a situation a few years ago where someone in a group just said something that you were there, I think, and I was like, that was so intrusive and egregious. Something had happened to me that was very scary, and they suggested something that was completely not an answer.
Yeah, off the wall.
And I just thought, and then the next day they posted something on Facebook, not with my name, but to that situation. And I was like, I'm done with you.
Yeah.
I'm done with you. And I just unfollowed, whatever, quit communicating. That's that.
Right.
And they moved.
And then the fuck out.
And they moved.
But
So
I guess I want to make sure that we're enclosing what our thoughts are on how to break up with a friend. Number one, it's totally okay to break up with a friend.
right.
But, what you're looking for in the friendship may just not be what's there anymore. And it might have been there 20 years ago, but it's not there now. And it's okay to say, I just don't think for either one of us this friendship is working. That's fine. If you want to do a slow closure where you stop responding slowly and you only see them in groups and they kind of get the hint, one way. Second way, you can do face-to-face if you're comfortable doing that. And always remember, use the term I. I don't feel like this friendship is working for us anymore. I feel like for me, I'm going in a different direction. And then empathize and listen to them because they deserve to be listened to as well. It's not like once you stop listening, if you're listening just to respond, you're not listening. Okay.
Yeah.
You have to really just own what your baggage you own, but stand firm in the fact that I think going forward, this is just not something that's
it's
working
probably
for
best
us.
for both of you. And also, if it is a situation, I did read that if it is a situation where you feel unsafe, or you could even talk to a therapist, have a therapist talk to both of you.
That's true.
You could do that.
That's
I mean,
like
that
a family
involves
member.
That is, but yeah, if it's somebody that was extremely close and you knew them your whole life, or a lot of your life, then yeah, it might cost you some money to seek therapy, but it might be safe. It might be the safest way to do this.
And don't make yourself smaller to be in a friendship.
Right. Yes.
Don't excuse away things that we might have excused in our 20s and 30s because we were just trying to survive the day with kids and work.
Right.
And you deserve good friends, and it's not about the number of them. You deserve. So it's okay to set a healthy boundary. It really is.
And I totally get how you can get into these friendships because you and I both have moved.
Yes.
And when you first move somewhere and you don't know people there, I put myself out there. I joined new neighbors. I joined did things to try to meet people. And then it works like maybe within a year or two, you kind of find your group of people.
Right. And I would definitely say that if you do have to break up with a friend or you feel like you should, note what didn't work so you don't fall into the same patterns again.
Right. And I think that's something as age, that's another gift with the aging is that, wait a minute, I've seen this movie before, and this is, like Talented Mr. Ripley.
Exactly.
Yeah.
We're going to keep going back
to that. I can't get, but it was funny when you were talking about responding and your response and sit there. I kept thinking about right back to White Lotus. I can't get past it. It's been 3 weeks. But Walton Goggins' character, Rick, when he's hearing his friend tell him everything, and he's just sitting there.
All of his friends' crazy experiences.
And he's just like, I don't know, I'm going to have to put on that Rick Walton Goggins face.
And sometimes you just have to listen.
Yes.
And it takes energy to be in a friendship.
Yeah.
So if you don't feel like you have the capacity, you can say to them, right now in my life, I just don't have the capacity to be a good friend to you. Mm-hmm. And that's okay to say too.
Because you may not. You may have so much going on in your life. And that's another gift with this age, that you understand that people have situations going on in their lives. Like I have one of my very best friends. I haven't seen her probably since like right before Christmas. And that's okay. Right. We're still she doesn't live near me, but we're still going to plan to meet up. It picks right up. And you've got those friendships that pick right up.
Oh, yeah. I have one that I see her maybe once a year. Maybe.
Right.
Karen, you know who I'm talking about.
Yeah. But you pick right up. And those are fine too. And we have friends in the neighborhood. They are going through medical situations, or they're going through things, but we're still there. So there's those kind of friendships too.
You can't get into good relationships if you're not a good person. Like, let me rephrase that. Let's edit that out. It's hard to to find good friends if you're not a good friend to begin with.
Right.
So
yeah.
if you can't be a good friend, it's going to be hard to find them. And don't be surprised if you get broken up with.
Right, right. You know, a lot of understanding goes into friendships, especially as you get older and situations arise, and you've got to be respectful about what's going on in their family and, you know, what's going on in their lives. That's a big thing. One of my sisters told me, I think it's a quote she heard, that if you keep running into a-holes all day long, you may be the a-hole.
Victim mentality.
Yeah, the victim mentality. Yes, yeah.
So we appreciate you guys listening to us. We would love to know your thoughts on this topic of how to break up with a friend. We would also love to know what you want to hear us talk about next in this web series. Make sure you're following us on YouTube and all forms of social media. If you'd like to get our newsletter, you can just leave a comment below. We'll have a link also that you can go to. And also the podcast, please listen to Hot Flashes and Cool Topics podcast, because we talk about anything and everything to do with midlife. Have a great day, guys. We'll talk to you next time.
Bye.